Hello, you multi-meowing malt mates. Meowing as in cat meowing. And thank you to Glenn Forbes, 20, for that malt mention. You malt mates are in the bothy, and the bothy is where high quality, high-end liquor reviews happen in detail. So I'm not reading off the script notes handed by the master blenders of the marketing team. No. As regards the tasting notes, I do them for myself because I've got plenty of experience around whiskey. I know what I like, I know what I don't like, and I particularly know that I do like to get value for money. And when I pay my money, because I'm paying for the whiskies I review, I like to get a good value in return. And I'm very, very disappointed when I feel I'm overpaying and getting a poor quality whiskey. A whiskey which, after about 2 or 3 sessions, because you've got to give them a chance, you've got to give them a chance. They let you down, and you discover with time that it's casks usually. It's not often the spirit. I mean, there's not a lot that can go wrong with a whiskey. It's either the spirit is hot because it's been badly made. You do get that, by the way. I had that in a Glen Grant not that long ago. I was very disappointed. Or usually it's casks. It's the quality of casks. And what I'm going to do in this Ralphie Review 932 Extras is I'm going to basically talk about how you can do a little bit of private investigation into different brands so as to inform your expectations of the quality they deliver in relation to the price they are charging. We have to do our homework, and nothing motivates us more than going out. Hey, I've done it plenty times, and you see a bottle of whiskey and you think, ooh, I quite fancy trying that. So you just buy a bottle and then you pour it, and sometimes it's really good, but other times it's rotten. It's rotten. What are the signs of a bad whiskey? 1, lack of flavour. Sometimes you'll see bottlings that are higher bottling strength for no apparent reason, yet the price is quite reasonable. And now what's happened is the spirit, the new make spirit's gone into casks, but if the casks are inactive, if they're exhausted, it's not that they don't give anything to the spirit that's gone into them. It's worse than that. They actually draw the life out the spirit itself, and therefore the spirit becomes diminished. It loses its edge, its vitality, because a cask won't necessarily do nothing to a whiskey if it's a poor quality cask. It can actually infect the whiskey, taint the whiskey, contaminate the whiskey, and diminish and affect and corrupt the flavour that should be developing if it was a good cask. But the bad casks, a classic example is ex-sherry casks, which have been left lying empty for too long. And what happens is they're left wet, right, because they've had previous spirit content, but particularly if they're in a sunny spot on a summer's day and the temperature's really high, what happens is the actual spirit, the alcohol, evaporates out of the empty cask, and as the internal alcoholic strength diminishes due to the evaporation of the alcohol, it leaves behind what's left: a little bit of liquid, mainly water, and some natural sugars from previous content. And then, of course, bacteria set in, and what they do is they stale a cask. A cask stagnates. It goes stale. And when you open an empty cask and take the bung off it and put your nose in the cask, it doesn't smell sweet. See, a good cask with an experienced nose in a warehouse can stick your nose in the cask and it smells sweet. Now, it may not actually be sweet as in sugary sweet. The definition of sweet is fresh, vital, energetic, dynamic, proactive, positive. So these sort of casks, sweet casks, when you put your new make spirit in from the still, it actually grows the spirit into something better, rather like this Deanston 18-year-old, which I've just reviewed in Ralphie Review 932, and I gave it 90 points out of 100. And the reason's simple. It's well-made spirit. So the new make spirit's gone into a first fill ex-bourbon cask. And that bourbon cask, I can assure you, at Deanston Distillery was sweet. It had the dynamics, and you're getting the benefit of 18 years of that dynamic interaction between spirit and cask, and then it comes into the glass, and then you've got an exciting, informative, and entertaining, engaging whiskey which can last you for hours, absolute hours. And you've paid your money, and you say, "Yes, I'm glad I bought that." And you notice it's Deanston Distillery. So you think, well, if one bottling's got good casks, surely the other bottlings should have good casks as well. Well, not always. But I'd say generally with Deanston, yes. Same with Isle of Arran Distillery. See, what you've got to watch is some ages of whiskey can be really quite tasty from a distillery, and yet whiskey at a different age isn't so good, and it's the casks. So what we've got to do is our private investigation. Now, the value of an age statement, and this is another plus point for age statements. I know I bought that whiskey this year. It was bottled either this year or last year, either in 2021 or 2022. And that whiskey was made 18 years previously. Minimum of 18 years. There may be slightly older whiskey in there, 19, 21, 25 even. But the age statement always goes with the youngest whiskey in the bottle. So I'm looking at a previous generation of casks that have gone to this warehouse back in the beginning of the 2000s. And then I think to myself, where was this distillery at in the early 2000s? 2002, 2003, 2004. Well, it was pretty much off the radar. It was not getting a lot of attention. It really wasn't getting bottled as single malt whiskey. Sure, some existed, but it was few and far between. And then new owners came along, and when any business buys a distillery, one of the biggest factors in the price they pay is in the value of the inventory. It's called the inventory. Really a fancy word for stock. So that the professionals from a company that's looking to buy over distillery, they'll go into the warehouses, and it's a tough job, by the way. You think, what a lot of fun. You wander in a warehouse for a few hours sampling cask after cask. Well, I tell you what, see, after a dozen casks, the novelty very quickly wears off. It becomes quite a chore. And it doesn't matter if you're spitting into a bucket and trying not to swallow the alcohol. You're gradually getting inebriated. You know, a blender's or a manager's job is, it sounds glamorous, but it's not really. You can imagine when you're in the thick of a distillery, right in the middle of it, you soon get fed up with the smell of whiskey. Because it's your job, it's your task, it's your chore, depending on how motivated you are and how well looked after the distillery is by its owners. So Deanston's come out, young whiskey, 12-year-old, a few years ago. It was impressive. A few other age statements, a few other one-off bottlings, Madeira cask, I bought a bottle, brilliant stuff. So that tells me that the cask policy at Deanston Distillery in the past has been sound. Now, I haven't had any information that would suggest that I changed my mind on this. But the thing is, if you want a good inventory of casks in your warehouse, and you're a business, you've got to spend the money, and that's a lot of money because you're buying thousands and thousands of casks. How much do casks cost now? Have you any idea? Let me inform you. A standard bourbon cask. Hello, little fluffy cat. My little fluffy cat's come in. Can I pick you up? No, you're just in. Right. Bye-bye. Cats. Bothy cats. They wait till I'm recording and then they come and give me a meow and hello and then keep out of the way because they don't like being picked up and shown to the camera because they're cats. So, a standard bourbon cask will cost you about £300 now. A good cask will cost you £500. A wine cask, port cask, Madeira cask, £600-700. A sherry hogshead, £800. A sherry butt, £1,500. So you're buying thousands of casks at an average price of £1,000. You can see where this is going. The price of casks for the global whisky industry has absolutely soared recently because of shipping delays and politics affecting international freighting and carriage of cask wood between countries. More and more pressure is put on distilleries to buy casks from the USA, in particular flat pack, because you can get far more casks into a container if you disassemble them and then put them in. The problem is when all these staves are piled up inside a shipping container and then they go on all around the world basically for months, and they can be sitting outside of docks for 6-8 weeks. And the cost of shipping has skyrocketed. This has become a very serious issue now for global whisky makers, particularly in the Scotch whisky industry, who are using inherited casks. And they're desperately trying to find local virgin wood, and it's not so easy to find. Northern oak is too resinous. It's the problem. So you need Southern Mediterranean oak and you need American oak. American oak is still the cheapest, but far more expensive than it used to be. So a major financial headache for distillers now and distilleries. What do? They've got to find some way of reusing their casks, the existing casks. And there is a problem, because the more you reuse a cask, the less there is in the cask that's going to be positively affecting and building the dynamics in the final product. I think we're in an age where we're going to see significant changes in cask management and cask usage. And the problem is, when you've got sweet casks, whole casks that have been transported intact, you're going to get better results. But if your cask has been disassembled, flat pack, where the staves lose their shape, they lose that nice curved shape. Here it is. There's a stave, nice curved stave. But what happens is that is dehydrating very quickly. It's losing its moisture content. This is drying out. The bacteria can get into the surface of the wood, particularly in a damp atmosphere, like you get in containers when they're out at sea. This is the problem. And then the coopers have to reassemble the casks as best they can from all the bits of wood. I mean, there's no way, absolutely no way they can reassemble one single cask from its previous staves, because they wouldn't even get the order right. The sequence of staff, broad, narrow, broad, narrow, broad, narrow. You know, every cask has its uniqueness according to the cooper's assemblage. And that is what makes a truly dynamic, sweet cask. And I don't know how the distillers are going to get around it. My solution would be inner staves. That the flavour you've lost from wood, from previous content, you keep that cask if it's got integrity, structural integrity, and you use fresh wood by putting inner staves in the cask to refresh what the cask can give in the form of wood extract. It's such a simple, effective solution. But it's not allowed in the Scotch whisky industry. Very stupid decision, in my opinion. Very stupid decision. It's not helping. Distillers should be using inner staves. You can use it in barrel heads, change barrel heads, and run all the barrel heads as well. But you need coopers to do this. Time-served, experienced, skilled craftsmen. They used to call them tradesmen, but a lot of tradesmen are involved in craftsmanship. And a cooper is one of the most valuable and important people in any distillery. Any distillery that has a cooper working in the warehouse has got a serious advantage, because they can take a poorly performing cask and they can sort it out. See, when you assemble a cask and it's been assembled from a flat pack, it's less likely to be watertight, and the only person that can make it watertight is a cooper. Machinery and a production line cannot do it. Just can't. So it's having this knowledge. And when you get to know a distillery, you focus in on the wood policy. When you visit a distillery, ask them this question: how many new casks do you buy each year as a percentage of what you have in the warehouse? And that will tell you in one answer how good their whisky is going to be in the future. Whether it be 10 years' time or 18 years' time, or however long the whisky remains maturing in the casks. That's enough for this extras. I'm just sharing the knowledge. As I advanced my own whisky knowledge, I spent more and more time with coopers. Because coopers, without even realising it, were telling me such valuable information. And of course the thing is, when you're in a pub and you're buying a retired cooper a drink, they start to tell you things that you're not really supposed to know. And it makes it even more fascinating. And I mean, it's just the tricks of the trade. That's what I'm talking about. Nothing dark or, disingenuous. Just the way a cask can be fixed with, for example, I'm going to finish off with one little example, and this still happens. If you fill a barrel with new make spirit and it's leaking at the corner at the end, there's a stave not quite holding intact, and you can see where that leak is, and you can see it just a wee wet patch, and then there's a wee drop in the floor. What you can do is you can get stainless steel screws, and you screw them into the end of the stave at least 1.5 inches away from the actual tip. So you're talking about in that area there. What it does is, as the screw goes in, it pushes the wood out. And that's all you need to seal a leaking cask. It's just another way of stopping cask leaks that you have never been told about. You've never heard about this. It's all right for me. I'm Ralphie and the Bothy. If you're a Patreon subscriber, you know I use beeswax and Vaseline, a mixture of the two, and I can seal off the barrel head, and I can also use it between staves, and it's very effective at stopping leaks. But, you know, there's warehouses out there, by the way, when you walk into them, and if you get a strong smell of whiskey, means one thing. There's whiskey outside the cask instead of inside the cask. That's not good. It's the knowledge, mock mates. Sharing the knowledge. I'm Ralphie. Thank you for watching. Please click like, subscribe and all the rest, because I'll be back again with another whiskey review, another 18-year-old whiskey review for Ralphie Review 933. And hey, I'm here to help. I'm here to share my experience to help you grow your experience. And the most important part of that is to enjoy your whiskey responsibly and not buy too many bad bottlings. Bye.